What is up, Gorilla Nation? It is Relentless here, bringing you yet another Division 2 build video. But if you're enjoying the content, then show some love to that like button. Also, ground and pound that sub button if you happen to be new. All these love and support is very much appreciated. Also, don't forget we have memberships of the Gorilla Nation out there. So if you want some extra additional content with tons and tons of value in it, whether it be sub badges, emotes, in-game help with builds, or private videos that are exclusively only for official Gorilla Nation members, then that is also part of the package. So if you want to go one step further other than a like and a sub and want to become an official member of the Gorilla Militia, then hit that membership button. Also, there are 4 gameplay videos. One is a live stream. There's 2 gameplay videos for this build already up. I'll leave those in the description. And also, I'll be uploading another set of clips for this particular build tomorrow, and we'll be streaming tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, and you can see this build live if you so choose. So if that's what you want to do, I also leave some clips at the end of the build because I also use it more or less in PvE, most things all the way up to challenging, with just little tweaks here and there when it comes to heroic or raid style, but we'll go over that in just a moment. And speaking of just a moment, let's hop into the build, because I'm pretty sure you heard enough of my talking. So starting out first, we have the Black Friday. Now I found this, well, I guess it found me. Some agents actually brought it to an extraction, and they just happened to leave it on the ground after they perished and, got sent back to the checkpoint. And I was gracious enough to pick that up and help them extract it for them. No matter what LMG build that I make, it's always going to be, built around more or less as far as weapon-wise when it comes to the Pestilence. Pestilence is my go-to, it's my thing. That's how I make people pestify, give them a little pestimony, make them say hallelujah, and pretty much turn them into a piss pool or a mist of piss. Because if you see my previous gameplay videos, you'll know you can wipe out a whole entire squad that is, coupled together and hunkered down, behind cover, and using more or less their status effects want you to push in. If you can just focus fire one and inflict a couple bullets on them to get the plague of the outcast and then turn them to a mist of piss, you can wipe the whole entire squad. I believe mine cloud with this particular build is ticking for like 158k a tick, and that cloud lasts for 5 seconds. So yeah, anybody that walks into it, you're basically toast and dead. And you can see that, and that'll reflect in the gameplay. But it's for other factors as well. Most typically, everyone thinks that you have to run 100% hazard protection on a build, or they like to leave stupid, dumb comments, pretty much just letting the world know they absolutely do not know what they're talking about. Yes, one form of the current state of the game, the meta, would be anything involving status effects. But if you don't have 100% hazard protection, or heck, if you don't even have 50% hazard protection, don't worry. There's nothing to worry about. You can see in my gameplay, they don't really affect you that much, simply because of the Pestilence being one factor. Because being put under blind, bleed, or burning, you get 20% bonus armor. And since I'm utilizing Bloodsucker, that helps it out even further, because Bloodsucker is an armor-based chest piece talent. So when I deplete someone's armor, I'm gaining 15% bonus armor, can stack up to 2 times. And then if I'm under a stats effect, let's say I'm in a hive, then I'm getting another 20% bonus armor on top of that. So you have to keep that in consideration. Also, by utilizing the holster talent on a sidearm of stop, drop, and roll. While equipped, rolling, or as I call it, doing a ballerina ninja flip, removes burning, bleed, and poisoned status effects, can occur once every 60 seconds. So also a keynote, if a teammate dies and they get turned into a mist of piss by the Pestilence, and you have stop, drop, and roll on, you might take the official initial tick of that 158k, but you can still survive, especially if you have 100% hazard protection or stop, drop, and roll. As soon as you think you're in it, or if they just evaporated right beside you, then just roll out of it, and then you're immune from that status effect. It's as easy and simple as that. So don't have to spec into a build and make sure you have 100% hazard protection. That is a myth, and it's a lie. Anybody that comments on anyone's build that's saying this build is trash because it doesn't have hazard protection don't know what they're talking about and completely misunderstand all the other talents that are in the game that can circumvent all these hazardous metas when it comes to blind, burning, or bleed. But this particular one, I did go in with hazard protection, so don't worry, have no fear. But let's continue on with the weapons. Now, a secondary is basically a toss-up on your personal preference. Yes, I typically go with the black market RPK because of the reload time and RPM. The unhinged Allegro protected reload actually comes in handy, getting that 10% bonus armor while I'm reloading. And since the reload time is 3.3 seconds in comparison to the 5 seconds of the 100 round LMGs, in which with the attachments you can drop that down to 4.3 seconds, I'm still, getting that a second ahead of you. So that split second can mean the difference between you living or dying in a gunfight, especially if you're having to reload just to inflict one extra bullet because the person is blackbarred. Within a few seconds, they can apply an armor kit, and if they're applying an armor kit and you're having to reload, then that's going to take precious seconds, and then within 3 seconds, they're going to have an armor kit off, and then basically you're screwed because you went to reload while they went to armor up. And if they still have rounds in their gun, or can switch to a secondary, such as an AR that has a faster reload time, then typically it's a toss-up and just hope and pray that they miss or have potato aim like myself. Now, it's in the mid to upper tier when it comes to damage. It more or less falls along the same lines as the MK46. This one's hitting for 35.6k with 633 RPM and a 100 round mag. The only difference is the unhinged talent. Perfectly unhinged on the Black Friday, which is 25% weapon damage, and then more or less only 20% weapon damage on the basic unhinged. So if I had to choose, reload times are essentially the same RPM, just one is a little bit lower in damage. But now if you can find a Black Friday with higher base damage to get it up to around 36 like the MK46 down here is, then it's a toss-up. But I think the Black Friday would edge it out, just for the simple fact the M249 Para, which is the Black Friday, has a little bit more accuracy to it and a little less, the recoil pattern is a little easier to control, but not really that impossible. Just like all the other LMGs, it only becomes a factor at really, really long range. But you can be more effective at longer ranges with the M249 Para versus the things of like the RPK or the military MK46. It's all personal preference and whatever you decide, whether it be the black market, the military MK46, or find yourself an M249 Para or Black Friday that has the perfectly unhinged on it. Sidearm, as I stated before, it's either protected reload or stop, drop, and roll. That's the only two things that I switch back and forth. And typically if I run my RPK that already has protected reload, then you best believe that I'm going to have stop, drop, and roll on my sidearm. Now let's hop into the build itself. Starting out first with a chest piece. We have 2 pieces of Heligard on. For one piece you get 5% total armor. Second piece gives you 20% hazard protection. The attributes on this particular chest piece is 15.5% total armor, 14.5% weapon damage, with 25,816 health. I wish that health was in turn an armor-based value, and that would almost make this perfect. But don't get too attached of the percentage-based armor rolls on chest piece, because some things are going to be changing on down the line. So it's not a must having to still try to find or farm for those 30% armor value rolls on chest piece, because they are basically going to get faded out of existence. So don't fret, my pet. But we're utilizing Bloodsucker, depleting an enemy's armor as a stack of 25% bonus armor for 10 seconds. Max stack is 6. And PvP, that is 15% bonus armor for 10 seconds. And max stack of 2. We have 2 defensive and an offensive mod slot. In the first one, 5128 armor, 3% total armor, 4% explosive resistance. An offensive mod with 5.5% weapon damage going to my LMG. And the other defensive mod slot, 4869 armor, 3.5% total armor, and then 3% explosive resistance. Now the second piece of Heligard gives me 5.5% total armor, 5% weapon damage, and 30,476 armor with hardened plus 15% armor and then spark. Damaging an enemy with skills or explosives grants 15% weapon damage for 15 seconds. It has an offensive and a defensive mod slot. The offensive 6% LMG damage, and the defensive 4869 armor, 3.5% total armor, and another 3% explosive resistance. Now, other than the Heligard, the other main component is the 3-piece of True Patriot, starting out first with the holster. 786 skill power, 26,728 health. If you have a better or can find a better holster, then you definitely want the health as high as you can get it, and of course skill power, because on an armor based build I believe that skill power is more valuable than actual health is. But you know, you can still achieve both on your mask and holster and still be right up there, like 100,000 health, 400k armor, and still have 2,000 skill power and hitting for over 35k. Then yeah, it is very much possible, as you can see. And then we have 2 offensive mod slots with 6% LMG damage in the first one, and the second one 6.5% LMG damage. Now moving on to the second piece of True Patriot, which gives me the 10% total armor. On these knee pads we get 12% total armor, and then an offensive and defensive mod slot. And the offensive, another 5.5% LMG damage, and the defensive, a 56-44 armor, 3% total armor, and then 3% explosive resistance. Now in the third and final piece, which gives me the red, white, and blue, when you shoot an enemy, apply a debuff to them. Debuffs are applied in the order red, white, and blue, cycling every 2 seconds. Red decreases damage dealt by the enemy. White restores armor to friendlies that shoot this enemy, and then blue boosts skill haste to friendlies that shoot this enemy. I typically, if you can time it just right, sometimes you can't, and it's just, you know, it just happens whatever it falls on, then you typically want the white or red, but that's just me. Now, on this particular gloves, I have 384 skill power. It already had 10% LMG damage on it, which is a good, decent LMG damage roll, but since I wanted to go a little bit more deeper into skill power without having to utilize a technician, then I opted in and put 384 skill power on these gloves, and they also have an offensive mod slot, which says I get another 6% LMG damage. Now, the final piece is this mask. 5% skill haste, which is I wish that was damage to elites, or health, and 50% has protection with 265 skill power and empowered. Now, the only thing that I would necessarily change is I'm looking for a mask that is Patriot, that has insulated on it, at least that 265 skill power on it, and I'm able to roll 50% hazard protection, as you see as in this one, but have another red. And the reason why I would have another red, no matter what it would be, is so that way I can switch out these knee pads if I think I need to be a little tankier, and switch to these Healer Guard knee pads. As you can see, I still am missing one defensive mod on there. Like, for instance, if I want to be a little tanky and have a little bit more explosive resistance than what I currently do, then it's easily just to come down and find mods that have explosive resistance, as these you see on the screen. And just, if I need another 8%, yeah, my toughness only goes up to 424, but I gain that extra 8% explosive resistance, and as you can see, I already have empowered on this particular knee pads, and since it does not stack, that's why I would prefer insulated on this mask. But now, as is, if I want to switch to Healer Guard, now I have a pair that I've actually found insulated on, as you can see, but I was only able to have the 10% total armor on it, but the 30% hazard protection would put me at 100%. Right now I'm currently only at 70 with the stop, drop, and roll and the pestilence to boot. So, but the armor base on these particular knee pads is really low at 25.8 versus these at 21.7, or this pair that has empowered on it at 30k. Now, if I can find a pair, or you can find a pair that has empowered or insulated, or vice versa, depending on which one you want, then definitely go for it. Because especially if you're a type of player that doesn't stay in cover all that much, just, you know, necessarily when you have to heal up, but more or less you're a mover or a shaker, then, you know, patience here wouldn't do me any good. Composure requires too many red offensive Legos, so that would not work here either. So what would benefit you more? If you're expecting a little bit of skill power like I have, since I have, you know, 2,000 skill power, then empowered would actually come in handy here, or insulated better than those others. And then cloaked, since I'm on bloodsucker, if you don't have at least 100k health, then cloaked is not really going to do you any good, because most people are using an assault rifle that has the baked in 29% damage to health, So with that 29% damage to health and you only having, let's say, less than 100k skill power, then basically within 4 or 5 bullets, then you're dead anyways. So, you know, disrupting their skill, especially if it's a 1v1, is not going to do you too much good. So a quick recap. If you want DPS, you want survivability, and you want a little bit of skill power, this is the best way in order to set it up, especially when it comes to armor-based talents such as Bloodsucker. And I can't reiterate this enough. You can stack health like some do. I know some out there have like 400k armor and then they're like 200k health and like say ultimate tank, you know, and they have no skill power and they're shooting marshmallows, but yet, you know, they have 15 or 16 blue Legos. And you're like, okay, what's the line of thinking? With the damage to health on ARs, in my opinion, skill power would be much more valuable because unlike Berserk is contingent on losing your armor in order to gain DPS, weapon damage. So in this case, with armor, it's more synergizing with heals than actually stacking health. Berserk, you would want to stack health over skill power because health is more valuable to you. But if you can find the right RNG to draw it for you, you can obtain both on any build, even if it's Berserk or Bloodsucker. And just by utilizing the mask and holster without having to go with a technician. Now, if I wanted to switch over to the technician specialist and become more of a complete support, then it gives me plus 50% skill power, would put me at 3,000, and then I would get either a 10% additional healing or 10% additional skill damage, and then I would get those disrupt grenades. But the reason I choose survivalist is because of flame grenades, seeing they have more of a radius and they actually work better than just regular grenades, and then being caught on fire will proc my spark. I'm not contingent and built around spark. It's just if I catch them with it or with this amount of skill power, my secondary heal or skill can be no matter whatever you want it to be. If you want it to be an assault drone to proc spark, you can. If you want it to be the cluster secret mines, if you want it to be a hive, the sky's the limit. It's whatever skill you want to use in this slot. And that's going to proc spark, and that's going to give me additional damage on top of it, but the build is not contingent upon it. Now, as this variation, like I stated in my stats, we'll go over them, starting out with the Black Friday. %50 all weapon damage bonus and 65% LMG damage for a total. Actually, that's 115%. So go ahead and say I clickbaited the thumbnail, because on the thumbnail it says 114%, and I was 1% off. I have 115%, so apologies. But on to the rest of the stats. Sorry, I backed out. But as far as when it comes to explosive resistance and hazard protection and things of that nature on this version of it, you will see my max health is 79,599. Health regen is 39,800. No extra incoming healing. 15% protection from elites. 14.19% explosive resistance. 50% pulse resistance. And then 70% hazard protection.